This review is divided and organized into a few parts because my aim was to cover as much as possible about the DJI Smart Controller. While I was preparing for this review, I watched some other ones on YouTube and I was really surprised how all of them forgot to mention various different really cool features the controller has, such as the function button, charging while operating, and so on. Before we jump in, I'd like to mention that if you're interested in buying the Smart Controller or any other DJI product, feel free to use the link below since it helped my work a lot. There will be timestamps in the description as well as on the screen, so you can always navigate to what you're interested in. And just a disclaimer, the controller was lent to me by DJI for review purposes, but in no way, shape or form am I obligated to praise the controller or was I paid for the review. So let's jump right in. Alright, so here's the box. And once we open it, we have the controller and some cables right here. As far as this box goes, we have some extra sticks for the controller. We have the power adapter. And on the other side, we have a USB-C cable for charging. So let's get on to the controller. Underneath the controller we have some quick start guides. Not important for now. Okay, so here's the controller. We'll open this wrap. And there it is. So right here on the front of the controller we have our regular buttons like on the original Mavic 2 controller. We have our power on buttons, buttons to return to home, our joystick, our pause. We have the flight modes like on the side of the original controller. We also have two function buttons which function on the Android system. Right here on the top we have our buttons to start the recording and to take a photo. We have our wheels and we have our C1 and C2 buttons right here below. As far as the I/O ports go, we have USB Type-A, HDMI out, and we have a slot for micro SD card. And right here on the bottom we have USB Type-C charging port, and we also have two screws to screw in the head strap. So unlike the original controller, the antenna are fixed together, and when we lift them up we have our sticks right here. Alright, so let's turn it on for the first time. We only have to hold the power on button and it will turn on. Alright, so this is our welcome screen. When we are connected to the drone we can just tap on go and we can go fly. With this button right here we can check out what we shot so far, and right here we can go on our app screen with some apps such as the DJI Go 4 app, web browser, and so on. We have our settings which I'll go into a bit later in the video. Alright, that's it for the unboxing. Let's go fly this thing and test it out. Alright, the controls seem pretty fluid, just like on the original controller. Actually, I would dare to say even more fluid. I can change my f-stop with the wheel right here. I gotta say this is much better than using the phone itself. I can now at least make some phone calls while I'm flying the drone. And the bigger and brighter screen also comes in pretty handy. Yeah, I'm really digging this. And I gotta say the sticks are feeling also much nicer than on the original controller. The original controller, sometimes the sticks feel too sturdy and they really want to go back in the original position, but right here they're much more fluid. I really dig them. I've also noticed that my settings from the original controller were not saved and remembered. I don't know why would they be. since it's a new controller, but there's that. You're gonna have to readjust your default controls for all the extra buttons. Alright, so that's it for the first impressions. I like it a lot so far. Let's get on to the actual review. As I've mentioned before, the controller does feel very sturdy in the hands, unlike the original controller, which after using this one seems really light in my hands. You can really firmly grip the Smart Controller, almost like the Phantom controllers, which I always preferred since I have large hands. It is made out of hard plastic and weighs around 700 grams. Since it's so well built, it is rated to work from -20 to +40 degrees Celsius. The original controller might also work in those situations, but the fact is that your phone probably won't work 20 degrees below zero or in the hot sun. And even if it works, battery on the phone will drain much more quickly in the heat, whereas the Smart Controller has built-in fans to keep the temperatures down. All the buttons are easily accessible. At first I wasn't sure about the placement of the flight mode slider, but I have to say, having it right in the middle means you can reach it with either hand when you have to quickly switch to sport mode to fly away from a flock of seagulls, for example. The sticks feel a bit smoother than the original controller. Again, almost like the Phantom controller, which I also prefer. They don't pull back with such force, which means you can pull off some much more fluid shots. The antennae are fixed together, as I've already mentioned, and this is something I'm not particularly fond of. I like the fact that I can reposition the antennae separately on the original controller. Even though them being fixed together is something I could get around of, the main dislike about them is the fact that they only have two positions, straight forward and 90 degrees to the ground. Which actually isn't the worst thing, since when you think about it, it's enough to have good signal to your drone at all times. It's just that this was one of the things I missed having from the original controller. The 5.5-inch screen, the selling point of the controller. The screen can get super bright, up to 1000 nits, which is much more than my iPhone 8, which I normally use for flying. The screen is 1080p, which means that it has a density of 400 pixels per inch, making it look super sharp. In comparison, here are some of the flagship smartphone models. Big PPI doesn't automatically mean that the screen is better, since the screen also needs to be physically quite big in order to look good. You can see that the Smart Controller is right there among the top smartphone flagships. Because of its high resolution, if you're coming from a lower resolution screen, the UI will look quite small at first until you get used to it. For example, the Wayfar monitor seems super small to me, but when you think about it, it makes sense that it doesn't take up so much of the screen, since it's just a visual aid for exposing your shots. Because everything is much smaller, it feels like you have more screen real estate for things that actually matter, like framing your shots. One thing I do miss though is the LCD screen from the original controller. Since I'm used to quickly checking my speed or my altitude, it was hard to me to get used to relying only on the information on the screen, especially since the typeface isn't too readable at the first glance. But I should also mention here that the original controller's LCD screen is quite bright, and it is often hard to read it when shooting at night, because of all the brightness adjusting your eyes need to do. Apart from that, it's much easier to frame and compose my shots now because of the size and the brightness. Touch responsiveness also feels quite good. I never noticed something not getting recognized. It really feels like a flagship smartphone or a tablet. The batteries are placed in the handles and they have a capacity of 5000 mAh, unlike the 3950 mAh the original controller has. The battery lasts for 2.5 hours of flying, but unlike the original controller, which doesn't have a dedicated charging port, the Smart Controller can be charged while in use, either with a power outlet or a power bank. Since the charging time is 2 hours when connected to a 12-volt 2A port, this means that you'll never run out of battery while flying and charging simultaneously. The I/O ports. An HDMI port can output 4K H.264 or H.265 video for external recording or monitoring while flying. Since the Mavic 2 Pro is a powerful enough camera to be included even on film sets, and since the controller will probably support more DJI drones in the future, having this option is great since you won't have the director breathing on your neck while you're trying to fly away from the flock of seagulls. Or you can connect it to a TV later on to show your grandma her house from the air. The controller has 16 GB of internal storage, and the microSD card enables you to have more space to record the video cache or do screen recordings. You can also insert the card from your Mavic and view your photos or videos. I personally always screen record while airborne, just in case something happens and I lose the GPS signal, and having this option is a great plus for me. The USB port can be used for charging your phone or anything else, and you can even insert the 4G network adapter to have 4G internet on your smart controller. But since this is basically an amazing Android tablet with flight controls, you can also use it to transfer your data to and from the external storage device. And finally, the function button. If you press and hold it, all the options it offers will appear. Unfortunately, the combinations can be changed, but nevertheless they offer many possibilities. Just hold the function button and press another button to quickly adjust the screen brightness, speaker volume or start a screen record. On the opposite side we have the confirm button used for navigating through the tablet. Some other minor hardware features include a microphone on the bottom, the air outtake below the I/O ports, intake on the bottom and the speaker. While we are still on the hardware and design, I should mention that I really like the overall design. As I said before, I was skeptical at first, but this huge screen, additional buttons, no cables and smoother control combined with the overall firm feel in the hands really make up for the price point. With the original controller you have the flexible and thin handles, if you have a fat case for your phone it may not even fit it, and so on. With the smart controller everything is in one place and ready to go. Also, after using up 3 batteries on your Mavic, your phone won't be at 30% battery left after having the brightness set to highest while also screen recording. Unfortunately, since the controller is so big, it won't fit in your Flymore bag. I had to leave out one battery, the original controller and the car charger if I wanted for the smart controller to fit. So a bigger battery bag or a case may be needed depending on your needs. Subscribe and stay notified for a 1000 subscriber giveaway, where I'll be giving away a PGY Tech bag for the Mavic 2 and smart controller. Another great thing about having the controller overall, which I should mention, is the fact that you can keep on flying when your girlfriend calls you to tell you to stop with this nonsense and come to dinner. The smart controller is running Android 7 and you get everything you'd expect from an Android device. What's really neat about the controller are the drop-down controls where you can easily enter the GoShare app, for example. Since this is a fact an Android tablet, you can download additional apps to your liking, so you can upload photos or videos straight from your drone to Facebook or Instagram. I should mention that there's no Google Play Store on the device, so you'll have to download the APKs to install other apps. You can also download some photo and video editing apps to quickly process your footage before uploading. Install Lightroom or Premiere, for example, put in your SD card or download the footage from the drone and edit the photos and videos straight on the controller. As far as the apps go, we have the DJI Go4 app, just like you would on your phone. As I said before, it's exactly the same app like you have in your phone, so I won't waste time going through it. Then we have the flight restriction info, which just opens DJI GeoZone maps and shows the map of your area. Then we have the tips app with some basic tips for using the controller and flying your drone. Then we have the file manager, just like on any other Android device or computer for that matter. You can check internal storage as well as SD card or external storage, and you can copy and paste the files between them. Then we have the Lightning browser, which is just like a regular web browser. And finally we have the settings. You have your Wi-Fi settings, Bluetooth settings, as well as other wireless network settings such as GoShare settings as well as tethering settings. Then you have a list of function button shortcuts. We have the display settings. You can turn on and off the adaptive brightness. You can even cast on another device or choose your HDMI settings. You can also calibrate the smart controller's compass. You can choose which app is allowed to send you notifications, and you can even turn on the Not Disturb mode while flying. In the storage settings, you can see the storage information and format your external card. You can choose your location mode as well as which apps are allowed to use your location. You can manage your accounts, edit the languages and input, factory reset your controller, change the date and time, update the system, about the smart controller, and enroll in Smart Controller Improvement Project. To link your controller with the Mavic 2, you simply open the DJI Go 4 app and select to connect your drone, and then press the link button on the bottom of your drone. As for the setup time, the smart controller will really save you a few precious seconds whenever you're setting up. Here's the setup comparison between the two controllers. As you can see, the setup time with the smart controller is much quicker. To conclude, honestly, this controller really isn't for everybody. If you're happy with flying with your smartphone, feel free to do so. This controller is really made for those who are flying often, who need their battery life, and who need to be able to quickly get airborne. The build quality is really one of the great things this controller offers. And then we get to the ultra sharp screen, long battery life, and not having to waste your phone battery, and the whole tablet mode. In fact, this should have been named the DJI Pro Controller. The smart adjective really doesn't do it justice. As I said, I was pretty skeptical if I'm gonna like it, but it made my life so much easier for the past 2 months I've used it. If you are as skeptical as I was, try to find someone who may have it and try it out for a few days. I'm telling you, you'll be ordering your copy with my link in the description in a matter of days. And that's it. That's the DJI Smart Controller. Make sure to smash that like button and destroy that subscribe button. Thanks for watching and goodbye.